Hey, and welcome back to another episode, another speedy read of Northern Lights by Phillip Pullman. And it's the same deal every single time. I've only got 15 minutes to get through as much as I can and read it as best as I can. But there will inevitably be, just like that, inevitably be mistakes, mispronunciations, messy interruptions, all sorts of things. Because I'm generally quite excited, and there's just not enough time to do everything. So I'm going to get begun. Last time, the gobblers were coming to Oxford, so the stakes are high. We need to learn more about the gobblers because they seem like a pretty sinister bunch. So, stopwatch on the go. We have 15 of the finest Earth minutes to get more learned about this story. Let's go. The first Lyra heard of it was when a young boy went missing from a Gyptian family that she knew. It was about the time of the horse fair, and the canal basin was crowded with narrow boats and butty boats, with traders and travellers, and the wharves along the waterfront in Jericho were bright with gleaming harness and loud with the clop of hooves and the clamour of bargaining. Lyra always enjoyed the horse fair. As well as the chance of stealing a ride on the less than well-attended horse, there were endless opportunities for provoking warfare. And this year she had a grand plan. Inspired by the capture of the narrowboat the year before, she intended this time to make a proper voyage before being turned out. If she and her cronies from the college kitchens could get as far as Abingdon, they could play havoc with the weir. But this year there was to be no war. As she sauntered along the edge of the boatyard in Port Meadow, in the morning sun with a couple of other urchins, passing a stolen cigarette from one to another, and blowing out the smoke ostentatiously, she heard a cry in a voice she recognised. "Well, what have you done with him, you half-assed pillock?" It was a mighty voice, a woman's voice, but a woman with lungs of brass and leather. Lyra looked around for her at once, because this was Ma Costa, who had clouted Lyra dizzy on 2 occasions, but given her hot gingerbread on 3, and whose family was noted for the grandeur and sumptuousness, of their boats. See what I mean? They were princes among Gyptians, and Lyra admired Ma Costa greatly, but she intended to be wary of her for some time yet, for theirs was the boat she had hijacked. One of Lyra's brat companions picked up a stone automatically when he heard the commotion, but Lyra said, "Put it down, she's in a temper. She could snap your backbone like a twig." In fact, Ma Costa looked more anxious than angry. The man she was addressing, a horse trader, was shrugging and spreading his hands. "Well, I dunno," he was saying. "He was here one minute and gone the next. I never saw where he went." "He was helping you. He was holding your bloody horses for you." "Well, he should have stayed there, shouldn't he? Runs off in the middle of a job." He got no further because Ma Costa suddenly dealt him a mighty blow on the side of the head and followed it up with such a volley of curses and slaps that he yelled and turned to flee. The other horse traders nearby jeered, and a flighty colt reared up in alarm. "What's going on?" said Lyra to a Gyptian child who had been watching open-mouthed. "What's she angry about?" "It's her kid," said the child. "It's Billy. She probably reckons the gobblers got him. They might have done too. I ain't seen him myself since." "The gobblers? Has they come to Oxford then?" The Gyptian boy turned away to call his friends, who were all watching Ma Costa. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know what the gobblers are here. Half a dozen brats turned with expressions of derision, and Lyra threw her cigarette down, recognising the cue for a fight. Everyone's demon instantly became warlike. Each child accompanied by fangs or claws or bristling fur, and Pan, contemptuous of the limited imaginations of these Gyptian demons, became a dragon the size of a deerhound. But before they could join battle, Ma Costa herself waded in, smacking 2 of the Gyptians aside and confronting Lyra like a prize fighter. "You seen him?" she demanded of Lyra. "You seen Billy?" "No," Lyra said. "We just got here. I ain't seen Billy for months." "Hello." Ma Costa's demon was wheeling in the bright air above her head, a hawk, fierce yellow eyes, snapping this way and that, unblinking. Lyra was frightened. No one worried about a child gone missing for a few hours, certainly not a Gyptian. In the tight-knit Gyptian boat world, all children were precious and extravagantly loved, and a mother knew that if a child was out of her sight, it wouldn't be far from someone else's who would protect it instinctively. But here was Ma Costa, a queen among Gyptians, in a terror for a missing child. What was going on? Ma Costa looked half-blindedly over the little group of children and turned away to stumble through the crowd on the wharf, bellowing for her child. At once, the children turned back to one another, their feud abandoned in the face of grief. "What is them gobblers?" said Simon Parslow, one of Lyra's companions. The first Gyptian boy said, "You know, they've been stealing kids all over the country. They're pirates." "They ain't pirates," corrected another Gyptian. "They're cannibals. That's why they call them gobblers." "They eat kids," said Lyra's other crony, Hugh Lovett, a kitchen boy from St. Michael's. "No one knows," said the first Gyptian. "They take 'em away and they ain't never seen again." "We all know that," said Lyra. "We've been playing kids and gobblers for months, before you were, I bet. I bet no one's ever seen them." "They have," said one boy. "Who then?" persisted Lyra. "Have you seen them? How do you know it isn't just one person?" "Charlie's seen them in Banbury," said the Gyptian girl. "They come and talked to this lady while another man took a little boy out the garden." "Yeah," piped up Charlie, a Gyptian boy. "I seen him do it." "What did they look like?" said Lyra. "Well, I never properly saw 'em," Charlie said. "I saw their truck, though," he added. "They come in a white truck. They put the little boy in the truck and drove off quick." "But why do they call 'em gobblers?" Lyra asked. "'Cause they eat 'em," said the first Gyptian boy. "Someone told us up in Northampton. They've been up there and all. This girl in Northampton, her brother was took, and she said the man as took him told her that they was going to eat him. Everyone knows that. They gobble 'em up." A Gyptian girl standing nearby began to cry loudly. "That's Billy's cousin," said Charlie. Lyra said, "Who saw Billy last?" "Oh, sorry, that's Billy's cousin," said Charlie. Lyra said, "Who saw Billy last?" "Me," said half a dozen voices. "I seen him holding Johnny Forelli's old horse. I seen him by the toffee apple cellar. I seen him swinging on the crane." When Lyra had sorted it out, she gathered that Billy had been seen for certain not less than 2 hours previously. "So," she said, "sometime in the last 2 hours there must have been gobblers here." They all looked around, shivering in spite of the warm sun, the crowded wharf, the familiar smells of tar and horses and smoking leaf. The trouble was that because no one knew what these gobblers looked like, anyone might be a gobbler. As Lyra pointed out that to the appalled gang who were now all under sway, collegers and all under her sway, collegers and Gyptians alike. "They're bound to look like ordinary people, else they'd be seen at once," she explained. "If they only came at night, they could look like anything. But if they come in the daylight, they got to look ordinary. So any of these people might be gobblers." "They ain't," said a Gyptian uncertainly. "I know 'em all." "All right, not these, but anyone else," said Lyra. "Let's go and look for 'em, and their white truck." And that precipitated a swarm. Other searchers soon joined the first ones, and before long 30 or more Gyptian children were racing from end to end of the wharves, running in and out of stables, scrambling over the cranes and derricks in the boatyard, leaping over the fence into the wide meadow, swinging 15 at a time on the old swing bridge, over the green water, and running full pelt through the narrow streets of Jericho, between the little brick terraced houses and into the great square towered oratory of St. Barnabas the chemist. Chemist, trimist, who knows? I certainly don't. I hope you do. Half of them didn't know what they were looking for and thought it was just a lark, but those closest to Lyra felt a real fear and apprehension every time they glimpsed a solitary figure down an alley or in the dimness of the oratory. Was it a gobbler? But of course they weren't. Eventually, with no success, and with the shadow of Billy's real disappearance hanging over them all, the fun faded away. As Lyra and the two college boys left Jericho, when supper time neared, they saw the Gyptians gathering on the wharf next to where the Costa's boat was moored. Some of the women were crying loudly, and the men were standing in angry groups, with all their demons agitated and rising in nervous flight or snarling at shadows. "I bet them gobblers wouldn't dare come in here," said Lyra to Simon Parslow, as the two of them stepped over the threshold into the great lodge of Jordan. "No," he said uncertainly. "But I know there's a kid missing from the market." "Who?" Lyra said. She knew most of the market children, but she hadn't heard of this. Jessie Reynolds out the saddler's. She weren't there at shutting up time yesterday, and she'd only gone for a bit of fish for her dad's tea. She never come back, and no one ever seen her. They searched all through the market everywhere. Excuse me. Dusty nose. I never heard about that, said Lyra, indignant. She considered it a deplorable lapse on the part of her subjects not to tell her everything and at once. Well, it was only yesterday. She might have turned up now. I'm going to ask, said Lyra, and turned to leave the lodge, but she hadn't got out of the gate before the porter called her. Here, Lyra, you're not to go out again this evening. Master's orders. Why not? I told you Master's orders. He says if you come in, you stay in. You catch me. And she, that's a nice line. You catch me, she said, and darted out before the old man could leave his doorway. Hiccup. She ran across the narrow street and down into the alley where the vans unloaded goods for the covered market. This being shutting up time, there were a few vans there now, but a knot of youths stood smoking and talking by the central gate opposite the high stone wall of St. Michael's College. Lyra knew one of them, a 16-year-old she'd admired because he could spit further than anyone else she'd ever heard of, and she went and waited humbly for him to notice her. Yeah? What do you want? He said finally. Is Jenny Reynolds disappeared? Yeah? Why? Because a Gyptian kid disappeared today and all. They're always disappearing, Gyptians. After every horse fair, they disappear. So do the horses, said one of his friends. This is different, said Lyra. This is a kid. We was looking for him all afternoon, and the other kid said the gobblers got him. The what? The gobblers, she said. Ain't you ever heard of the gobblers? It was news to the other boys as well, and apart from a few coarse comments, they listened closely to what she told them. Gobblers, said Lyra's acquaintance, whose name was Dick. It's stupid. These Gyptians, they pick up all kinds of stupid ideas. They said there was gobblers in Banbury a couple of weeks ago, Lyra insisted, and there was 5 kids taken. They probably come to Oxford now to get kids from us. It must have been them what got Jessie. There was a kid lost over Cowley way, said one of the other boys. I remember now. My auntie said she was there yesterday, because she sells fish and chips out the van, and she heard about it. Some little boy, that's it. I don't know about the gobblers, though. They ain't real gobblers. It's just a story. They are, Lyra said. The Gyptians seen them. They reckon they eat kids. They catch and... She stopped, mid-sentence, because something had suddenly come to her mind. During that strange evening she'd spent hidden in the retiring room, Lord Asriel had shown a lantern slide of a man holding up a wand, with streams of light pouring into it, and there had been a small figure beside him with less light around it, and he had said it was a child, and someone had asked if it was a severed child, and her uncle had said no, that was the point. Lyra remembered that severed meant cut. And then something else hit her heart. Where was Roger? She hadn't seen him since the morning. Suddenly she felt afraid. Pan, as a miniature lion, sprang into her arms and growled. She said goodbye to the youths by the gate and walked quietly back to Turl Street, then ran full pelt for Jordan College, tumbling in through the door a second before the now cheetah-shaped demon. The porter was sanctimonious. I had to ring the master and tell him, he said. He ain't pleased at all. I wouldn't be in your shoes, not for money I wouldn't. Where's Roger? She demanded. I ain't seen him. He'll be for it too. Oh, when Mr. Corston catches him. Lyra ran into the kitchen and thrust her way into the hot, clangorous, steaming bustle. Where's Roger? She shouted. Clear off, Lyra, we're busy here. But where is he? Has he turned up or not? No one seemed interested. But where is he? He must have heard. Lyra shouted at the chef, who boxed her ears and sent her storming away. Bernie, the pastry cook, tried to calm her down, but she would not be consoled. They got him, them bloody gobblers. They ought to catch him and bloody kill him. I hate him. You don't care about Roger. Lyra, we all care about Roger. You don't, else you'd all stop work and go and look for him right now. I hate you. There could be a dozen reasons why Roger ain't turned up. Listen to sense. We got dinner to prepare and serve in less than an hour. The master's got guests in the lodging and he'll be eating over there. That means chef will have to attend getting the food there quick so it don't go cold. And what with one thing and another, Lyra, life's got to go on. I'm sure Roger will turn up. Lyra ran out of the kitchen. knocking over a stack of silver dish covers and ignoring the roar of anger that arose. She sped down the steps and across the quadrangle, between the chapel and Palmer's Towers, and into the Yaxley Quad, where the oldest buildings of the college stood. Pan scampered before her like a miniature cheetah, flowing up the stairs to the very top where Lyra's bedroom was. Lyra barged open the door, dragged her rickety chair to the window, flung wide the casement, and scrambled out. There was a lead-lined stone gutter a foot wide just below the window, and once she was standing in that, she turned and clambered up over the rough tiles until she stood on the topmost ridge of the roof. There she opened her mouth and screamed. Pan always became a bird once on the roof, flew round and round, shrieking rook shrieks with her. Oh, and that's it. 15 minutes of Phillip Pullman. So it's all going on. Have the gobblers got Roger? I blink him while I hope not, because they don't sound like good news, and obviously Lyra's pretty concerned. So we'll have to come back next time for another fine 15 minutes of Northern Lights. Until then, you go easy and sleep well. Bye.
Stand up and fight, for you know we are right. We must strike at the lies that will spread like disease through harm.